Well, hey there, y'all. Just a quick reminder, this podcast's for fun and information only. It ain't medical advice, and the views are ours, not our employers.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. Great to see everyone. Nessa and I don't know where the last week, days have gone. It's been pretty busy with both of us. So, Nessa, how are you? What's new?
It feels really chaotic right now, just in general,
Right.
all across the board.
I'll,
I don't know if fall season or, it's a lot of things, but
So we've decided we're going to pivot today, and I will just say this is more leaning on the feel-good side of medicine. So this is all going to be a what the health, HEALTH. And so we're going to have a fun conversation. All right, I'm going to preface this discussion with about probably 2 weeks ago, a classmate of mine posted on his social media how proud he was to write a script for a patient to have a whiskey a day. And so the context was that this was a patient who was on hospice care. And, I think for those who are not in medicine, a question of, is this professional if you're, writing a prescription for whiskey a day? But I think that, again, we want to expose, what is medicine, right? What fun things we should be doing. So today we're going to talk about uncommon prescriptions. So that's how we're going to jump off today.
uncommon made common.
Yes, exactly. Pushing the needle and changing the thoughts. So again, for all of our listeners and viewers, the links to everything that we discuss are also posted on our blog. I'm going to just start with a disclaimer. So a lot of my healthcare social media feeds and the fantastic influencers who are physicians are doing great work to try to talk about the rigors of medicine like we did previously, the need for randomized controlled trials, how do we validate the fact that correlation does not equal causation. So that is a big disclaimer for the first article, which is 10 unbelievable things that doctors could prescribe in place of drugs. And I throw out the disclaimer because this is sometimes erring on what we may call soft science or non-validated, non-scientifically factual. Let's go with that. So in this article, I'm going to skip around because I'm going to save my favorite from last. And one of the 10 things on this, gardening. Nessa, gardening, medicine or not?
Definitely a medicine. Well, I think when I first read that article, I was really excited because it's all the things I'm doing for my own health. And so when I was reading it, I was like, oh, it's experiential prescribing.
Right.
Like, I don't even think it's prescribing per se as it is, and I know I said this before, but inspiring. But I feel like I can't inspire anyone unless I'm doing it. So gardening, and just to nerd out for a second on it, has in the soil a Mycobacterium vaccae, which has antidepressant properties directly. We're not talking about direct effects. We're talking about just experiential, but that is just a side note.
Right. Is that the good cousin of the other Mycobacterium that most of us don't want?
Yes, they're all related.
Right. And for those that we're talking about TB, which is Mycobacterium tubercular. So yes, so the non-hard science would also talk about impacts from gardening. So this actually references that in the National Health Service, gardening was being prescribed to cancer patients. And part of that is not just the depression that you mentioned, which they talk about, but it helped to reduce loneliness because oftentimes gardening can occur in a community space where you build those interactions. It lessened anxiety and stress. One of the gardens was to cultivate food to then be sold or to be incorporated into the food of the hospital. So I thought that was amazing.
I have to add that about 20%, one of the mentions was that about 20% of dementia patients, when they visit a garden, have fewer symptoms.
Yeah, that's right. Perfect. So the next one I'm going to call out, just because I would expect this person to reach out to me to prove that they're following us, is bird watching, which is also with strolling along the beach. So I will say that there's an attending where we trained who's a notorious birder. And on rotation with this provider and primary care, lunchtime was spent birding. I did not find this relaxing. I found this quite aggravating because for somebody who, believe it or not, does not pay attention to fine details in nature like that, it was not my thing. But birding was on that list.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the things are intersecting activities. So birding, gardening, being outside in the forest, by the sea, it all falls under forest bathing or Shinrin Roku, the concept that took hold in Japan in the 80s. And it just means sensory awareness,
Right.
all your senses open, and doing it outside in blue and green spaces.
All right. I'm going to wrap up with the last two. So on this list is Guinness, which I, of course, knew. So I did my medical training in Ireland at the Royal College of Surgeons. It was not folklore that the women used to get a glass of Guinness, and the reason, of course, being the iron content. And so I thought it was just great to see that this did actually get prescribed in Ireland, and my classmates can attest. However, when you look at the actual iron content in Guinness, it's 3% of the 19 milligrams that are recommended daily. So I think a little bit, again, of an extrapolation, the hard science would not say that 3% of the 19 milligrams justified this as a medical intervention. But this is going to lead us to, we're moving on, one of the other top 10 things that was prescribed was park visits. And so that's going to segue us to our main topic for today of Sweden. And let's chat a little bit about this amazing concept of prescribe Sweden.
Yes, well, it kind of falls with the prescribing park visits, because I want to mention that you don't really have to go to Sweden per se, or go to a national park per se, or to a forest. You can walk down the street and look at your trees in your neighborhood if you're in an urban neighborhood. And you can still receive the benefits of lowering your anxiety, lowering your blood pressure, increasing your sleep, all the benefits that come with decreasing inflammation, increasing your immune system, all the benefits that come with this craze of forest bathing and being outside in nature, you can get every day just walking outside. But I think the important thing with Scandinavia, which I'm kind of fanatical about, is that as a whole, as a nation, they engage in collective well-being, or they create institutions that support collective well-being, rather. And so that's just, it's good to see different cultures and traditions around the world. And I know both of us have that experience, and probably is our highest education, wouldn't you say?
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to see that and how it connects to healing.
Right. And I think, some of the articles that our readers have seen, and our watchers, I guess, are some of the articles that say, yes, there is fundamental truth into the prescribe Sweden. And so, and I love that you'll see, this here where you can actually you can download this and take this to your doctor and ask them to prescribe. Obviously, this is probably not covered by most healthcare plans, but that is right. It's a fantastic marketing tool. It's actually not the first country to market, but as I think you talk about, right, you can do nature anywhere. And part of what they brand in their marketing strategy are some of the concepts that their culture brings. So you had mentioned the Japanese practice.
I'm probably butchering it, but Shinrin Roku?
Right.
Shinrin forest bathing.
So Sweden has a version of forest bathing as well. In addition, it's a culture that is intentionally promoted physical activity. So through biking, the ability to bike safely through towns, as many of our towns here in the US do. But then also part of this is cultivating fika. And so what I really appreciate about fika is that most of us probably do this in our daily life, which is an intentional moment to enjoy some food, some coffee, some pastry, but to intentionally slow down and to intentionally disconnect from cell phones down. If we're coming out of the hospital to go get a quick cup of coffee, it is making sure that we minimize the distractions and really make our connections with each other kind of the central caveat. So, I think intuitively, when you are in a culture that calls it out as something that is different, I love that fact. So that was one of the cultural practices that I thought was.
And all of these things, what comes up for me every time we talk about all these social prescribing things is that they all help us engage with the present moment. And so take a minute, take a hot second
Right,
to
right.
just find out how you're feeling in that moment. Tune into all your senses, whether you're outside or inside, in
Right.
the hospital under the fluorescent lights or outside under the sun. Like, you can still learn to do that. And I noticed from just personal experience, the more I did that, the stronger those neural pathways became with my
Totally.
senses. And so over time, it becomes generative. It's
Right,
just
right.
and once you realize it's helping you so much, it's helping you sleep better, it's helping your mood, it's helping your, inflammation, your gut, everything. It's all
Right.
connected. And it's
Right.
like, free and accessible to most people.
Right, right. And I think also to, again, the same themes that are weaving together is the Swedish theme of lagom, which is not too much, not too little. So balance and moderation as a theme that's applied across everything. So from lifestyle, eating, this to me also kind of came back to the eat till you're 80% full, right? So practicing moderation, what is the right balance? And obviously in an American culture, that's not a concept I think that most of us are very tuned in. Why get the 2,000 square foot house when you can get the 5,000, or and so or why get the regular portion at a restaurant when you can get it supersized or get 5 extra sides. So I thought that was a fantastic concept. The Visit Sweden campaign rightfully takes everything that we see in a lot of different cultural aspects as a fantastic marketing tool. I loved it.
Yeah, I think it was brilliant as well.
So I'm going to request a prescription from you, and I believe that my HSA is going to pay for it.
Sounds perfect. But honestly, I think we're moving away from prescribing as like a hierarchy. I know we brought that up last time, but just like, I am the doctor and I'm going to prescribe you something. And I think it ties into what you were talking about earlier, because only you know what is good for you. And so you're getting all this information, all these different recommendations, which may or may not work for you. I kind of think of it as you're just walking through a field. I say this all the time. You're like walking through a field, picking flowers. And like some of them will be good for you and some of them are already dead. You throw them back, or, you're just picking a bouquet and you're creating this thing that works for you. And so you're hearing all this stuff from all these different doctors, from longevities, anywhere from longevity, aging to gut health, and you don't know what to do. But beauty is, and there's always beauty in these, is that it's experiential. So it's, you go out and do it, and then you decide, or you discover that by doing X, Y, Z in this manner, by trying to kind of, you don't have to follow rigid patterns or anything, by trying to kind of just be present,
right,
and connect with nature, you'll find what works for you. So I love birds, and I think that tuning into bird song is actually, it increases your parasympathetic nervous system. And so I know a lot of birders probably tap into that.
right. And for me, it was the opposite. I think it was the sympathetic, because it felt like a chore to be perfect and identify. But the parasympathetic, so just to kind of distill this, right? So that is the relaxation. That is the vagus nerve. It's slowing down our heart rate. It is allowing dilation of our blood vessels to reduce the strain on our heart as it pumps, to improve oxygenation in the muscles, to really bring that slow. It's the zen as opposed to the running from a zebra. I was trying to get a Z word in there. Does anyone run from a zebra? So I think that's also really important, because it comes down to practicality. And I think, as you say, there's so many messages again, we're seeing our advertisement by, hey, this is the only olive oil that you should ever buy because it's the best and it's so expensive, or this is the best, gut probiotic, or, why aren't you doing all these? And I think you mentioned social prescribing. And so for our next article for our viewers here was just this fantastic article that came out recently, in NPR that talked about this movement of social prescribing. And what I liked about it, and I think, as physicians, do we lose the forest from the trees? Absolutely, right? And so what I loved was kind of the case study or two in here where the specific question was, what brought you joy when you got up in the morning, and how can you tie that back to health? So when it talks about, boy, the patient used to enjoy riding their bike and hadn't been on a bike in 10 years and now has weight gain and diabetes and all of these factors. Well, if you tie this back to what did you do that you enjoyed, invariably, that may have been something very healthy. And so I think that whole social prescribing discussion is something that we have to, I think for those of us who've done a little bit of social prescribing, I always think, are my colleagues going to chastise me? Am I going to get called into the office for saying, hey, I recommend that you're doing something that is, maybe not traditionally prescribed, but something that is, very important.
Yeah. And I think, just to reiterate what we were saying earlier, we're moving from what's the matter with you to what matters to you. And then somehow you can, help with that journey.
Right.
Yeah, I think we're overly prescribing, and none of this is meant to replace, needed medications, obviously, and interventions, but it's to supplement and to self-empower, really, and honestly, they should start in medical school, teaching the doctors, because if the doctors don't know how to take care of themselves, or not even don't know how, aren't permitted to,
Right.
then, because that just wasn't the model, then it just doesn't really work out in the end.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point, right? Like, heal the healer, and you have to be in that space and kind of recognize, vividly recall, we've all been in that where we, had physicians or we had mentors, or, and we're like, you're not necessarily the face of health, but you're telling people about health, and, certainly that, disconnect. So we do not have a What the Health book club yet, but I have ordered this book, The Connection Cure, by Julia Hotz. The prescriptive power of movement, nature, art, service, and belonging. Because I think that this is something that, we're all working to, empower. And so the link to this is also on our website, called Social Prescribing. And I was thrilled to find out that part of the Social Prescribing USA is a program called Walk with a Doc. So these are, and there's one literally half a mile from my house in Denver. So this is an opportunity where physicians lead walks to, power walks that are meant to kind of, force exercise, but oftentimes it's a chance to discuss with a physician of a specific topic, such as, coronary artery disease, or, what is actually new treatments for diabetes. And I thought, again, it's that embody healers, physicians as the healer, and set that example as well.
No, that's perfect. I have a belief that people who walk together grow together. And I also think that when you walk, the creation of the alternating movements of your legs will break the patterns of anxiety. And so it's a great way to have more clarity. So I love that idea, to walk with a doctor or your neighbor or your family members or with yourself to achieve the same results.
Absolutely. And again, I think when we look kind of at the societal, implications, I feel very lucky. Oftentimes we're able to go walk to dinner with our neighbors and enjoy that. To me, it's almost like it's like the social appetizer for dinner on that walk. I think physicians generation or two before would would kind of feel like this was the uncomfortable area of medicine. We don't talk about prescribing going on a bike ride for your family, or we don't talk about prescribing, go sit in the park with your feet in the grass, and just take a lunch. But I think we're really trying to look at, what is medicine? What is our obligation as physicians? And what is our obligation as parts of society, but also those entrusted with the care of society? And so we wanted to delve a little bit into a topic today that bring our passions. So Nessa and I both travel or have traveled a lot, in the things that we do for fun, which factor around things that other people may not do. And it's a chance for us to be authorities and prescribe for others to do fun things. What do you want to end with today?
I mean, I just had a pop-up yesterday, and it was 18 strangers around food and fire. And so that's pretty awesome. And I feel that everyone was really excited just to talk with people for more than 20 seconds and just be kind and be present. And there was no agenda. There was no nothing. It was just laid back. And the food, of course, was my garden stew. So yeah, I had a lot of harvest. So I wanted to share it, which I love to do.
Yeah, and I think that's a great concept, right? Like, I think we're all in the same space where I know that that in our other neighborhood, the neighbors just had kind of an informal social gathering. And again, I think as we're talking when we started this episode, it's just a very busy time. But if we intentionally create that space right now and let people know that it doesn't have to be fancy, it can be informal, I think everyone's craving that same connection right now. So I think that's a good call out. We would love for you all to send us some stories that we can post of what did you do to create that space for your community as well. So I think we'll wrap up.
That's called the third space, or a sociologist in the 80s called that space the third space. It's a space that's not home or work. And for some reason, we just haven't had we don't have as many third spaces anymore. Like we used to have coffee shops and libraries.
Yeah.
I know, right.
All right, follow us, and we'll throw us ideas and suggestions. Our first guest speaker had a change in plans. We're still reserving the spot for that person to be our first guest speaker. And so look soon, and we look forward to chatting more. Take care.
All right, now, that's a wrap for today's show. You can find us at www.whatthehellth.org or on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and like and subscribe to our show. Remember, this podcast's for information and entertainment only, not medical advice. The views you heard are ours alone, not our employers. Y'all take care now and stay healthy out there.